It's KC 101, your hometown country station. I'm Kevin Thomas, and it's time for Saturday with Seniors, brought to you by FCCB's Tioga County offices, which are in Wellsboro, Mansfield, and Blossburg. FCCB is proud to sponsor Saturday with Seniors here on KC 101. First Citizens Community Bank, building better communities for over 150 years. And our guest today, Eileen Robbins. And hello, Eileen.
Hello, Kevin.
Thank you for joining us here on Saturday with Seniors.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Let me start off by saying you're the youngest senior we've ever had at 70 years old on the show.
Wow.
And you could have passed for 60 easily. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So we want to hear about your life and growing up and what was different in your life than the world that you grew up in today's world and some of the interesting things that went on in your life. So let's go back 70 years ago.
Oh, geez. Okay.
What were your parents doing when you were born? Tell me about the family you were born into.
Okay. My mother was a homemaker. My dad was a plumbing contractor. I was the firstborn of two children. I have a younger sister, Marcy, who is 9 years younger than myself. And I would say it was a pretty traditional home. You know, we watched Captain Kangaroo and Leave It to Beaver and The Lone Ranger and all those kind of things. And it was good. The area where I grew up was really quite rural, even though it's only 16 miles from Pittsburgh. So there was lots of room to play outside, which is what we did any time that we could. There was lots of family around. My grandparents, my dad's parents lived right across the road from us. My cousins lived right down the yard from us. It was very idyllic, actually. You know, it was safe. Mm-hmm. You could go trick-or-treating anywhere. We never thought about it. You know, we could just, they would dress us up and turn us loose, and nobody ever had to think about anything bad happening, you know. It was really nice. My parents stayed together all their life. It was not terribly remarkable, you know.
Yeah.
I went to school, pretty much enjoyed school, went to high school, got involved in activities there, loved Warrior Choir. That was our kind of unique choir at Elizabeth Forward High School. That's where I went. Yeah, so my growing up was really very good.
Tell me about school. What was school like going back then? Was it is obviously different than today's schools? And
for sure. Yeah.
Tell me about school and what was different from today's schools than, you know, or 60, 70 years ago when you're in school.
So I think I would have to say, I remember first grade especially, kids were very quiet. People just didn't talk out. Miss Tucker was my first grade teacher. I cannot imagine talking back to that woman at all, ever. It just never entered people's minds, I think, to talk back to a teacher or to defy them. There certainly
There's a
were
different
not
level of respect for the teachers from the students, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, they just kind of put the fear of God in you, and you didn't. I don't remember kids really getting in trouble. I mean, you know, if anybody would dare speak to somebody or not pay attention, you get yelled at, you know, and that was pretty much all it was.
So you weren't the troublemaker in school, and it doesn't sound like you had any in your school at all. So
No, I was a good little girl. I guess I wasn't a troublemaker.
So what happened when someone did get in trouble in school? Do you remember? Was they lose their recess, detention after school, or did they have the paddle at your school?
Yeah. Sometimes people would get paddled. Sometimes they would stand in a corner. Then later on, as you advance through the grades, there was detention and that kind of thing. But still, I mean, you know, now you go into even elementary schools and there might be a detention officer, might have an office there, a probation office, or even the police might be there, you know, and we never saw anything like that. It wasn't necessary.
Did you have a slide ruler?
No, you know what? I never took calculus. So yeah, I took trig, but I never took calculus.
So when you had to do math, you did it out on paper.
You did.
You didn't use a calculator then.
No, absolutely not. Long division was all long division on paper. That's right.
So when you were in school, were they doing air raids at that time?
Yes. In fact, they were doing them out in the neighborhood. I remember one time walking down the sidewalk with my mother when the sirens started, and we had to find a place to get off the sidewalk, and we had one or two practices in the school where everybody would get under a desk or whatever.
So as a kid, what type of music did you like? Did you have a favorite artist or band when you were young? Do you remember the first album you bought or concerts or any memories of music when you were young?
I'm not sure how old I was when I got my first transistor radio. I'm guessing around age 13 or 14, but I liked the Hollies, the Beatles, of course. You know, that was a huge thing, and I loved them just like everybody else did. I remember in 7th grade, one of my classmates, Leslie, and I would pass notes back and forth about Paul McCartney. So that was kind of a big thing.
You have a secret crush on Paul?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, did I ever. I sure did.
Did you see the Beatles when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show?
I did.
Yes,
Yep, I did.
You did.
And a cool memory that I had, I think when I was 13, my parents had a surprise birthday party for me, and they got me, I think it was the Meet the Beatles album. That was a big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So how about the movies? What'd you do for entertainment when you were a kid? Did you go to the movies? Did you do other stuff?
There was a movie theater in Elizabeth. It's not there anymore. I think it's a church, but we would go almost every weekend. We saw Elvis movies. I can't really remember what all, but almost every weekend we would go. And there was no such thing as R-rated or X-rated movies, so pretty much anything that played, anybody could go to.
Yeah, that's right. The movie ratings are something that came out, I think, in the 70s or somewhere in there.
Could be, yeah.
It's very interesting. So here you are in Tioga County. You were born in Pittsburgh. You went to school in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
At some point, you ended up here. So
I did.
How'd that happen?
Okay, so when I graduated from Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a degree in speech audiology and pathology, I couldn't really get a job in that field in my hometown area. So I was actually working in a savings and loan, and an opportunity opened up in Williamsport. And I had never been to Williamsport.
So now you're getting closer.
Getting a little closer, but I got a job there actually as a substitute speech therapist for someone. So that was my first step into this intermediate unit. And so from there, the job here opened, over in the Kawaneski Valley. I had 5 schools over there, but I was hired then full-time to be speech and language therapist in the public schools.
So what year were you working in the Kawaneski Valley, give or take?
I came here the summer of 1977.
Year after the Spirit of 76. A very patriotic year. You're working in the school system.
Yep.
And how long did you do that for?
For about 17 years.
So quite a while.
Yes,
Yep.
quite a
So
while.
you started off with, you were mentioning the IUP, what's that? You got to help me out on this a little bit.
The intermediate unit? Well, IU 17, which covers Bradford, Lycoming, Sullivan, and Tioga, and they would provide special services like special ed teachers, speech and language teachers, and those kind of things. But at some point, the school districts took that all over, and we still have BLAST, the intermediate unit. I think it does preschool and a lot of other services like that. Yeah, so I was an employee of Northern Tioga School District for about 17 years, I think.
Wow. So tell me about the teaching. Obviously, you're in the school, you're working with the kids and stuff. That must have been very rewarding.
It was. I really enjoyed the kids a lot, and I enjoyed all the staff. I worked with 5 different faculties, so I enjoyed that. What I did not like is the paperwork. And as time went on, the paperwork increased more and more. And now I can't even imagine what it must be like.
The world is filled with paperwork these
Oh,
days.
my gosh. And so much legality. And that really was kind of getting me. So that was probably the reason why I really started looking for other things to do. So in 1989, I ran for county treasurer because I had worked in a savings and loan and I had some background in that. That didn't work out, and that was very disappointing for me. But it ended up that I kind of went back to school. I was able to do that while I worked, and I became a mental health therapist. And for a while, I was working half-time for the school district, and then I was working in Williamsport at a clinic. And I really liked that a lot because, it was very, very varied. But then the school district wanted to make the speech and language position full-time again. And I remembered how I felt, after I left that full-time position, and I wasn't interested in doing it. So it kind of catapulted me into doing something that I wasn't ready to do, and that was to open my public-private office in Knoxville.
So that was your next step.
That was my next step. But I probably should say, back in 1977, when I came up here, there was a woman that I taught with. I was single when I came here, and she was very concerned about that. And so she decided that she needed to fix me up with somebody. So that's a whole long story. But
How'd that work out?
Very well.
Okay.
It worked out really well. And so in the October 1978, I married Earl. And we've been married for...
A year later, okay.
A year later.
So that did work out
It
well.
worked out. Oh, yeah.
The magic was
we
there right from the start.
hit it off right away. Yeah, it was really great. He's a great guy. And we're going on 44 years.
Wow.
How about that?
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So is this woman still around who set you up with Earl?
No,
No
unfortunately,
longer with us?
she's gone. But
Yeah.
but her son John is one of Earl's classmates, and that's kind of how this all came about. So that's just important
Yes,
in my history.
absolutely.
So
So 1977, you're here, you married Earl. Tell me about what Tioga County was like when you lived here in 1977.
oh, okay, I can tell you.
Some of the businesses that aren't here, some of your memories.
Oh,
because we're
man.
going back 18 years before I came to Tioga County. Here.
Yeah. Well, what I remember in Elkland, there were a couple of drugstores. There was a clothing store that's gone.
Were there parking meters in Elkland at that time too?
I think so.
Yeah.
I believe
Westfield,
so.
I believe, as well at that time.
I
period.
think so. Yeah. The businesses have changed quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Things have turned over and changed, but you've seen all the changes, so trying to
Oh,
remember
gosh.
the
Yeah.
details of them all.
Yeah, it's hard to remember.
Did you do any activities locally here? Were you into like bowling or outdoor things or anything that...
Did a lot of horseback riding. Love to ride horses. Earl was a county extension officer for a lot of years.
Earl Robbins. Wait,
Yeah,
I'm just
you
putting the pieces
know
together.
you
Oh my
know
gosh,
Earl
this is
now.
the- this is
I
the
said
second-
to him, I said, Kevin knows you, right? And he said, well, it's been a long time. He didn't know if you'd remember, but yeah, it's Earl Robbins.
I just looked at your last name. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I know
Hello.
Earl is. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I got very involved with 4-H. Got to be actually quite a huge 4-H club for quite a number of years. I think we had 33 kids in there at one time. Went to 4-H camp. So was pretty involved. Got involved with the fair, judged at the fair, kind of did stuff with Earl as far as cooperative extension. So I really loved it here from the moment I moved in. Just loved it. I never was cut out to live in the city. Just wasn't.
I'm the same way. I grew up 25 miles out of Boston, so probably similar to you living outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And the town I grew up in has twice the population now, and I don't like the way it's changed. I don't like all the traffic and how long it takes to get from one side of the city to the other side where I grew up.
Absolutely,
so I found my
yeah.
place here in Tioga County 27 years ago. It instantly felt like this is where I belong.
That's really awesome. And now I just remembered what we were talking about before. So
Okay.
I'm going to go back because it was about the school district.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing that really struck me in where I grew up in Elizabeth Forward Township, we had, I think, 5 elementary schools. We had a junior high school and a senior high school. Here, where I worked, I went to 2 high schools and there were several elementary schools. So that was really weird to me that here's a school district and it's got, at that time, had 3 high schools. So that was just, I mean, that's a minor thing, but to me, it just seemed really odd, you know.
Yeah.
And there were campaigns going on about keeping high schools open, and they wanted me to sign petitions. And I would say things like, you have to forgive me, it's kind of a foreign concept to me, but where I was, we had 1 high school.
Absolutely. So now that you're here and you've been retired now for how long?
I think since 2018.
So
4 years.
not that long.
Yeah.
But so what are you doing with your free time these days?
Trying to do a lot of things around the house that haven't been done before. And I love to do a lot of gardening, do a lot of things at church. And I just have become a Meals on Wheels volunteer. So I think I'm really going to enjoy that. I know I'm just brand new at it. And so I'm sure that I'll make mistakes. But I enjoyed my run that I went with someone on Wednesday. And it was really great. Enjoyed it a lot.
Well, good for you. Meals on Wheels is a great program providing meals for seniors. They're shut-ins, right, that you're delivering meals to. So these are people that really, sometimes you're the only contact that they have when you come there. So you're doing a welfare check as well as
Yep. And they seem like very, very sweet people. So I had such a good time on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to this Wednesday.
Well, maybe you'll inspire someone else listening to get involved with Meals on Wheels.
Maybe.
I know they need a lot more volunteers.
Yeah. And something else I like to do is if somebody needs a ride to go to a doctor's appointment or something, especially from where I live to Wellsboro or Elmira, or even I haven't taken anybody to Williamsport, but I certainly would if they need. I like to do that. I like to accompany people that way.
That's just something that you do on your own if somebody needs a hand with that.
Yep.
Wow. That's very generous of you to help out that way, too.
I enjoy the people that I transport. It's nice to spend the time with them and learn about them and help them in that way. So I like it.
Absolutely. And how about Garth Brooks? Now, I heard you saw him in concert.
Well, yeah, I saw your Alan Jackson picture, and it just made me remember the Garth Brooks concert because I was not at that time a country music fan at all. And what happened was one time I was traveling from here to Pittsburgh to see my parents, and there were no other music stations on except country. So I had country music on.
You had to listen to country music.
I had to listen to country music, and on comes the song, If Tomorrow Never Comes. And I listened to that song and it made me cry. And I thought, wow, is country music like that, you know? So I just remembered I liked the song and listened to that. So then I found out a little while later, came back home, we're at the fairgrounds. Here's a poster up. It's Garth Brooks, but I didn't know who he was.
At the Tioga County Fair.
At the Tioga County Fair, yes, thank you. And it's a list of his songs, and there it is, If Tomorrow Never Comes. And I said to Earl, oh my gosh, we have to go to that concert. I said, is that who sings that song? Because everybody else had heard the song The Dance. That was like, I guess, more famous, but I didn't know, you know, because not listening to country music, totally clueless. So we went, you know, and there he was down there on the flatbed, and that was the best concert. You know, that's how I remember him. And he got famous, right? Like really famous right after.
He just had like 2 singles when he played the Tioga County Fair.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was just starting to climb up that ladder. And
I will always remember. In fact, still when I hear some of the songs that he sang on the radio, I can picture him down there with his band on that flatbed.
So there was no cover. He was just on a flatbed. Playing his music.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm thinking that Annie Clark, who was the fair secretary at the time, said that his sister, or one of the female members of the band, something happened and she needed a pair of jeans. So I think it was Annie brought her into town to Dunham's or someplace to help her get some jeans, you know. Just
That's
kind of
neat.
A cool story. Yeah.
I remember Brian O'Shea, Country Ski and Sports, was telling me that Garth came in there to shop, which is now CS Sports, before the concert, and he was talking with him. And
oh, wow.
So he stayed in Wellsboro. I believe at the Sherwood is where he stayed, if I remember correctly, when he played at the Tioga County Fair.
That. Yeah, but that was really, really special.
I haven't met many people who saw the concert with him at the Tioga County Fair, so that's neat. You don't have any pictures, do you?
No, no. In fact, we don't. Earl has at home. He has most of the posters, you know, from the concerts. I'm trying to think who we have at home. We don't have a picture of Alan Jackson like that, but we have some of the other folks who became famous, but we don't have Garth Brooks, unfortunately. Yeah.
Anything else that we want to share while we have you here? We've kind of gone through from the beginning to the end here, and we still got a couple minutes left. Do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Just that I consider it a great blessing to live here. You know, I hope this place, at least in the rest of my lifetime, doesn't change too much. You have to have change. Change can be a good thing, and there always is change. But boy, you listen to the news and you listen to what's going on in the bigger world, and especially in cities, and it would break my heart for that to happen here. People like to come here because it's still pretty safe. Mm-hmm. It's not 100% safe, but it's still pretty safe. It's a beautiful place to live. We travel some. We don't travel a whole lot, but I haven't been any place yet that I think I would actually rather live than here. So I really
100% on that.
Yeah. I hope that we'll be blessed that it doesn't change too much, and that this can always be a place where people can come and feel safe and enjoy the beauty. And the folks here, boy, when I moved here, people just kind of really embraced me and took me in, you know, and I really appreciated that. So I hope Tioga County can always be that kind of place.
Absolutely, yes. When I came here, the same thing. I think coming from the outside, I came in with the attitude of, I want to learn about here. I want to be a part of here. I want to be a part of your culture. I want to learn, you know, and not coming in trying to change, but coming in trying to learn and be a part of. And
you certainly have done that, Kevin.
Well, thank you.
You've done that. You have.
27 years ago, I came to Tioga County and I said, you know what? I'm going to be a part of this county.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Eileen Robbins, we appreciate you coming to our studio and sharing your story of the past 70 years of your life from Pittsburgh to Tioga County and a little bit of Williamsport in between. And your husband, Earl, we'll say hello to him too as well.
Yes, indeed.
Earl Robbins. All right, it's KC 101. You've been listening to Saturday with Seniors. We do this each Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Talk to local senior citizen about growing up in our area and their life story. Sponsored by FCCB's Tioga County offices in Wellsboro, Mansfield, and Blossburg. And you can hear this and all prior Saturday with Senior episodes on our YouTube channel, which you can get to through our website, kc101fm.com. First Citizens Community Bank, building better communities for over 150 years. Member FDIC.
Awesome.